In today's Leeds news, Radrizzani update. Leeds have Dimitri the Conde on Director of Football list. Gyabi and Joseph impress for England. Jack Jenkins returns to Leeds. Leeds interested in Luis Palma. And Leeds versus Tottenham Hotspur preview. Hey folks, Joe here on Friday the 26th of May with your Leeds news. First things first, to get out of the way, apologies for yesterday. I thought the press conference was yesterday. Forgot the game was on Sunday and all the press conferences were moved to Friday. So apologies for that. That's why there was no live stream last night. However, if you would like to do a live stream tonight and have a chat, we can. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in that. I am going to cover the press conference in the second half of this video as usual. But if you want to pop on tonight and have a live stream, have a chat about what's going on in the club at the moment, the rumors, the QSI stuff, everything we're going to go through in a bit more detail, a bit of a Q&A, and then talk about the weekend. Let me know in the comments if there's interest in that. If there is, we'll do it. If there's not, we won't. But we'll crack on with the news anyway, and we'll get into this. We'll start off with the story that has dominated Leeds news all week as we approach the end of the season, and that is the future of Leeds United owner Andrea Radrizzani, as well as the future of Leeds United involved in this. So reports in Italy are saying that Radrizzani's takeover of Sampdoria will lead to a partnership with Leeds United. The deal for Sampdoria's future is expected imminently, with Radrizzani in a meeting today that was supposed to be cancelled, but looks like it's gone ahead. There's a further shareholder meeting planned for Monday as well, so we could see some news coming out of this pretty quickly. They say that the offer from Radrizzani to buy the club, clear its debt, pay the players, and pay off shareholders who are owed money has been seen as an offer that is too good to refuse. Meanwhile, it's also been claimed in Italy that reports that Radrizzani and the 49ers are still in talks about a sale of Leeds United to the 49ers. It gets a bit confusing then and a bit convoluted when we start hearing reports from Calcio Mercato. They're saying intriguing developments this week have seen QSI, the owners of Paris Saint-Germain, come into the mix here to try and buy Sampdoria as a minority partner. They also claim that Leeds and Sampdoria would join forces as a partnership similar to that from the Pozzo family, who own Udinese in Italy and Watford. That is not a good partnership, by the way. It was good for 1 year. It has not been a good partnership. You have two teams who are both not great, and it hasn't really worked. So I'm not a fan of this idea. And they also say there's a possibility of the 49ers getting involved in the Sampdoria deal as well. It's crazy what's going on right now, but it's Leeds, so it's always going to be crazy. There's a lot going on there. Personally, I'm not a fan of this, but we can talk about that later on this evening on a live stream. I think that any kind of a partnership between Leeds, 49ers, and Sampdoria, Radrizzani staying in the mix, will end up in disaster. I don't see this ending well. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about some good news. And Darko Gyabi and Matteo Joseph impressed on their England World Cup debut. England 20s beat Uruguay 3-2 in a tough enough game in the end. They were comfortably 3-1 up and got back to 3-2 and managed to see the game out. An assist from Matteo Joseph for the second goal gave England a lead. And then Darko Gyabi scored an absolute cracker, cutting in from the left-hand side, beating several players, getting into the box and pumping a lovely shot into the bottom corner. Great goal. Looked really, really good as well. Proper talent there coming through. Great to see it. Other youth players, let's talk about Jack Jenkins, and he has returned to Leeds United. A lot of people may have forgotten Jack Jenkins was even on loan. He was out at Salford. Didn't cover him in the loan watch this season because Jack Jenkins, unfortunately, only played 6 games in the entire season for Salford. Most of that due to long injuries that he's had all season. Salford have released their released list of players for the end of the season, and Jack Jenkins will return to Leeds United as part of that. It's been an unfortunate move for Jack, who went there with a lot of promise as well. Jack's looked good underage at Leeds and went to Salford to try and make the next step for Leeds. Be interesting to see what Leeds do with Jack when he comes back in the summer. But again, so much stuff needs to be sorted out at Leeds before we can even start looking at what players are going to stick around and who's going to go. So we'll wait and see. Moving on, let's talk about Director of Football briefly. And according to Newsvald, they are saying that Leeds are heavily interested in Genk Director of Football Dimitri de Conde. De Conde is being described as having a track record of developing young talent. He also has been credited with bringing in over 260 million in player sales to Genk to help them develop the club. He has been looked at by several clubs, including AS Roma and Spurs, and Southampton are all said to be interested in the Director of Football as well. The 48-year-old has been at Genk since 2015, and Leeds are very keen. Apparently, he's one of a couple of people, we've talked about Weber as well, that's on the list to replace Victor Orta soon, hopefully. We'll have to wait and see. But that's the update on that one. And then talking about potential incoming players. People are asking an awful lot of information, and I'll give out the information. There's 2 recruitment teams at Leeds. There's an underage recruitment team who are recruiting younger players. People seem to get really annoyed when I do a story about Leeds signing an 18-year-old. Leeds have to bring young players into the underage club because they're going to bring players into the senior setup out of that underage pool as well. Don't forget Archie Gray's playing under 17s. Charlie Crew is playing under 17s. They're both playing under 21s. That leaves gaps in those teams that need to be filled by good quality young players. So Leeds still need to recruit for young players. They also have a recruitment team who are set to be working away in the background without a leader, but they still have a plan and they're still working through that as well. So recruitment is still happening at Leeds. And according to reports from DS, Leeds are said to be in a race to sign Luis Palma from Greek side Aris. The 23-year-old has scored 13 goals this season in all competitions. It's the Greek Super League, and has been described as a versatile striker. I would like to see Leeds linked with a striker who is a striker and only a striker and isn't a player who can possibly play wider as a 10. Leeds need an out-and-out number 9. So we might already have him in the club. Maybe it's Mateo Joseph. We'll find out. However, Diaz is being looked at by several clubs. Rangers and Burnley are said to be interested in the player as well. Has been said that he will be leaving the club in the summer, but there's MLS interest in the player as well, which kind of gives you the level of the standard that we're looking at here. 13 goals in 23 games. He may have been playing as a winger. Leeds don't need any more wingers. They don't need any more wingers. And then lastly, Jeremiah Mullen has been called up to the Scotland under-21 side. Mullen, who scored a cracker of the goal in Leeds' playoff win, has had a really good season from 21s as well, and has been part of the senior squad in recent weeks in going to matches and been part of the squad. So good development for Jeremiah Mullen. Seems to be making a bit of a push now in his development, which is great to see. Folks, that's going to be it for the news for now. We are going to take a quick 2-second break and then move into the match day preview. So if you want to stick around for that, I'll talk to you in a second. If you're just here for the news, thanks very much for watching. Let me know if you want to live stream tonight and want to have a chat about all of this stuff that's going on right now in more detail, and we can do that later on. Let me know, and I'll talk to you in a bit. Bye. Right, folks, I'm going to look down an awful lot, so I apologize for that, not making eye contact. But the difference between a Javi Gracia press conference and a Sam Allardyce press conference is I used to get all of the notes from Javi's press conference pretty much on half a page. Sam Allardyce today has taken up 4 pages. 4 pages. So we'll crack on with this, and we'll talk about the injuries first. Rodrigo trained today, which is a positive move coming into the weekend. And Pat Bamford hasn't trained, but will be assessed tomorrow with a final decision. He said he wants to give everyone an opportunity to play their part if they want to play their part. He said they're not blessed with strikers. Nobody asked the question. Nobody asked the question about Georgina Rudder. I'm shocked that nobody asked the question about it. It was right there to be asked. He said that he will gamble on players' fitnesses if a risk element is taken into consideration and the player wants to. He won't risk players getting injured, which could damage their careers. But he said if they can help us out, and assuming there's no long impact, we will take the risk. So there's that. He moved on then about players' mood, and he said they moved training to Ellen Road this week. They've been in the stadium for 3 days training, and he said players have loved it. Mood has been great. He said it's do or die time again. The training in Ellen Road has been just to continue to familiarize themselves with the environment they're going to be playing in on Sunday. They already know the environment, but immersing them in the stadium and getting them superly familiar with that coming into a game has been done before. Bielsa used to do that as well, especially when the stadium was closed. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on. Do Leeds adapt better now after training for a week in Ellen Road? Gary McAllister and Eddie Gray were brought up about coming to training yesterday. Sam also added that Gordon Strachan turned up today to talk to the players, and he was asked what that was all about. And he said, just bring players in with a different voice. And he said about how their time was at Leeds, the impact Leeds has made on their life, how they feel about the club, what it's meant to them, their successes at the club. And he said just different voice to have around the place just to nail home how important this club is, and how important the weekend's going to be. Asked about the game on Sunday, about information coming in. Like, you obviously have to control your own destiny, but you will be hearing scores coming in from Everton and the Leicester games. And he said the crowd will let us know. They'll let us know what's happening. He said, but accurate information is important. He said he will have somebody looking after that element of it. That will be their job for the day, to keep an eye on the scores. But he said he doesn't want to go making changes based on information that turns out to be false information, because it could actually affect Leeds negatively. So he said it's going to be one they're going to keep an eye on. He said, but it's going to be important that we get our job done first. But he said, obviously, he will be keeping an ear, and the crowd will let him know what's going on. So, asked then about what he has seen in the players since last week's defeat. Have they turned a corner? Have they turned around their performance level? And he said, players, as long as they played against Newcastle, be fine. He said he was very happy with that. He said best performance was the first half against West Ham. He said, but he's pretty critical. He said the final third, just not good enough. not up to scratch were his exact words. And he said tomorrow's going to be about tactics. It's going to be about Tottenham's tactics and stopping their strong front line, but also exploiting their weaknesses, which they saw against Brentford and their poor back line. He said that they have to play the game for the entire period of the game, however long the ball is in play for, 55, 60 minutes, whatever it is, play for the entire game and not just for a half. He said they lost their way a little bit in the second half, and he said it's fine to lose your way for 5 minutes, but you've got to get back into the game, and we just couldn't do it. And he said that was disappointing. Asked how much you have had eyes on, how much you've had your eyes open since you've come to the club by Adam Pope, and what is needed for this club to be successful. He said that's confidential. There's a couple of things Sam says in this press conference that we'll talk about that I think are interesting and leading a little bit. He said it's confidential, which means there's something's gone on that they can't talk about. Not just saying, I'll decide my future at the end of the season. He said it was confidential, but he said a lot of things will be aired when the season's over and we'll see where we go. That was it. That was the answer to that question. Asked about the ups and downs of the season and the roller coaster moments, and then Sunday will obviously be another roller coaster moment. He said it's all about composure and getting possession, controlling the game, getting on it. And he said quality in the key areas. He said get at Spurs defense. It's their weak point, and get at them early. He said we can't ignore Spurs' strength. We have to score first and then try and outscore them. Sounds simple, doesn't it? When somebody says like that. Turning the pages onto the 4th chapter of Sam Allardyce's press conference. But he said, look, we're going to need clean sheets and we're going to be prolific in the final third, which, he said himself, we're not a prolific team. So he said if things fall into place, will this be the greatest of greatest escapes? He mentioned Brian Robson's situation at West Brom. He did it. He said there has been other ones as well. But he said, look, all we can do is win a football match. He said, pray and hope, if praise the right word, but, hope the gods of football are watching over us. And he said, look, winning is the only thing that we can control. We have to go and win the game, finish the season with a win for the fans as a bare minimum. Then he was asked if they win on Sunday, would he still like the job at Leeds? And this is again where the other comments come into this. He said, that's to be decided after this season. We will discuss it at the end of the year based on what I think the club needs to go forward and based on what they think if everything aligns. And fingers crossed we're talking positively and he has a hangover after hopefully a successful game. Asked about changing his philosophy on constructing attacks. He said they've changed it every game. They've constructed attacks differently in every single game. And he said, we'll do that again. He said, we've had lots of practice in the stadium. We know what we're doing. We know what we're going to be doing. And he said, we have to see if it works. Asked, then the comment was made about scathing comments made about the subs performance when they came into the game. And he said, look, it's got more difficult. This managers are very different. You had Bielsa wanted 3 subs and no more than 3. Marsh wanted 5 subs because he wanted to be able to impact the game with more players and, fresher players coming in to help the game. Sam says we've made it more difficult by introducing 5 subs. He said it's hard enough trying to manage it with 3 subs. He said now a coach has to get as 5. If he doesn't make any, he made a mistake because he made no subs. If he makes all 5, well, there were 5 bad decisions. He shouldn't have made 5. He should have only made 1 or 2 or none. So he said you can't really win. He said it puts more pressure on the managers. But he said, look, there's an opportunity to put an impact sub into a game. You take it. He said the issue is that impact subs are massive. And he said he felt that a bit disappointed that when the players went in, they didn't seize the opportunity to get into the team. They didn't realize that they're pushing for a starting place, he said. And it was disappointing that they didn't live up to the opportunity that they had ahead of them. Then it went on. They were asked about, Leeds could have a similar situation here last year. Can they do it again? He said it's a different squad. There's a lot of different people in there, but the players that were in there would be expected to step up. He said he's disappointed with the second half goals that Leeds conceded, and he said it was avoidable. And that's something that they have to look into the weekend at doing again. Asked about Luke Ayling's comments about the players not being fit enough. He said they were against Newcastle and they were against Manchester City, so he doesn't understand that. He said he was hugely disappointed at the weekend, but he said mental fitness is more important than physical fitness because mental fitness will make you run harder for longer. He made the comment again about pointing a gun at somebody and watching them run faster and becoming Olympic sprinters on the back of that. Then he was asked about other stuff as well, about the club and stuff. And he said, I can't talk until after Sunday. I'm really interested to see what happens after Sunday and what gets said. Either way, up or down. Something is coming out of this club. Or I'm reading too much into it. Probably reading too much into it. Folks, that's going to be it. It's we'll talk about the game tonight if you want to do a live stream. Let my feelings on this. I think Leeds are already down. Takes a couple of miracles at the weekend. They happen. They do happen, and it might happen. Either way, I'll still be supporting them again next season. Looking forward to the excitement of maybe a promotion push, or if we do stay in the Premier League, a revamp of this Leeds United squad, and we'll have to wait and see. Getting very strong. Sam Allardyce wants to stick around and may stick around next season. Vibes off that press conference, but let me know what you think. And that's going to be it. I will be back possibly tonight. Let me know in the comments. I'll stick a note on the community tab as well if we're going to do the live stream. So if you want to check that out, it'll be there. I'll give it a couple of hours and see what the feedback's like. And that's going to be it, folks. Thanks as always for watching. Hope you had a really good week. Enjoy the weekend, whatever way this goes. Whatever happens on Sunday, it will be a fresh start for Leeds come Monday. And we'll start again. That's the positive, I suppose. Right, folks. See you on Monday or possibly tonight. Have a great weekend. Fingers crossed for 3 points on Sunday. Let's go, Leeds.